the audiobook makes a great Christmas present too, by the way. Wow, that's one of the core scenes of Dr. Sleep.
It is, and it wasn't in the first draft.
It wasn't?
My son read the book, my son Owen, the younger boy. Well, he's not a boy anymore, he's mid-30s. But it'll always be my little boy. He read the scene, he read the book, and he said, "Dad, I think that this book is really good, but what would make it stronger is if we saw a scene of Dan Torrance at his absolute worst as an active alcoholic." And I thought, looking back on my own checkered past, that I could probably do a pretty good scene that had those elements in it.
Diese Szene war ursprünglich in der Originalversion, in der ersten Version, die er geschrieben hat, gar nicht drin. Und sein Sohn, sein jüngster Sohn, der es gelesen hat, sagte, da fehlt noch eine Szene, wo Dan selber an seinem Tiefpunkt angelangt ist. Und dann entstand dadurch diese Szene. Und da er selber Erfahrungen mit dem Teufel Alkohol hat, hat er gesagt, hat er ein paar gute Ideen, wie er das einbauen könnte. Which leads me to a question which I know you've talked openly about frequently in the past. How much of what we can read there is shaped by your own experiences with alcohol?
Before I answer that question, was that a tremendous reading or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't speak German, but I can hear the music. So that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, in terms of alcohol, one of the things that I wanted to do in Dr. Sleep was kind of balance the books, bringing the scales back into balance. Jack Torrance is an alcoholic who practices what's called white-knuckle sobriety. He doesn't have any kind of a support group. He doesn't go to AA. Alcoholics Anonymous isn't even mentioned in The Shining. And one of the things that occurred to me over the years when I thought about Danny was alcoholism is a disease that is both hereditary and also environmental. It has two ways that it can get people. If your close relatives drink, you have a greater propensity to drink alcoholically yourself. And if you're in an environment where a lot of people are using booze as a matter of course in the day, that also ups your chances. And Jack never goes to AA or never joins any kind of a support group because frankly, at that time, I was drinking very, very heavily, but I had no idea what AA was. I mean, theoretically, I knew that there was such a group out there somewhere, but it seemed to me that one of the glaring holes in the book was that Jack never tries to get sober with the help of others. And I thought that if I gave Danny that family disease, then I could put him in some sort of a support group. And I saw ways I could use that in the story. The story isn't supposed to be any kind of a lecture or any kind of a sermon about alcoholism. What it's supposed to do is to talk a little bit about the destructive behaviors that addictions lead us into. Not just booze, not just drugs, but anger. Anger is a big part of the book because anger figured largely in the course of The Shining. And one thing I think that a sequel should do is to touch on the main PowerPoints of the original, but in a new way.
Das, was ein guter Nachfolgeroman tun sollte, ist so ein bisschen das aufgreifen, was im Originalroman in der ersten Version drin ist. Und das ist ein Thema ist Wut und auch Gewalt und eben Alkohol. Und Jack Torrance, die Hauptfigur von The Shining, hat es versucht, auf eigene Faust loszuwerden, dieses Problem mit Alkohol. Buchstäblich ist gescheitert. Sein Sohn hat die Alcoholics Anonymous getroffen in diesem Buch und das spiegelt so ein bisschen auch sein Leben. Als er The Shining schrieb, hat er keine Ahnung, was AA wirklich bedeutet und was sie für einen tun können. In der Zwischenzeit hat er diese Erfahrung gemacht und das ist jetzt auch in Dr. Sleep eingeflossen. So, alcohol, anger, alcohol is a big topic. I feel also that family is a big topic in Dr. Sleep. The numerous even the true knot is a family with caring individuals. They're not black and white. I mean, they're loving and look after each other, and there's a lot of that. So, would you agree?
Yeah, for nasty child-killing demons that live forever, they're actually a pretty nice family group. But it's all in perspective, right? We all see ourselves as the good guys in the story because we're inside ourselves. But it is a book about family to a large extent, and part of Danny's family, and this is touched on at the very beginning of the book, is he has a friend named Dick Howard, who's the chef, who's played by Scatman Crothers in the Stanley Kubrick movie. He did a terrific job. But in the book, Danny Torrance is this little boy in The Shining who's 4 or 5 years old, and he doesn't know what it is that he's got. He just knows that he has this talent that's very confusing, and sometimes he can read minds, and he knows where lost things can be found, and sometimes he catches little glimpses of the future. And Dick Halloran, who is the chef at the Overlook Hotel, picks this up from Danny's mind and gets him alone and says, "It probably got you kind of scared, didn't it? Thinking you were the only one." And Danny says, "Geez, yeah, it really did." And Halloran says, "Well, you're not. I'm the way that you are. You're not alone. There's someone else who's like you. And if you need help, you can call me using your special talent." And to me, that's the most immensely comforting thing in the world. Or it seems to me that if you had a family that was dysfunctional and falling apart, if you sensed your father was a dangerous man and that your mother was largely ineffectual in controlling him, to find a strong adult figure that would kind of take you under his wing, that would be a tremendously comforting thing. So that was The Shining. And then all these years later, when I went back to Dr. Sleep, it occurred to me that anybody who is mentored and protected in that way has a responsibility to pass it on, to give it back, to pay it forward, pick whatever cliche that you want. So that, you know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a saying, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. So I thought to myself, I want a character in Dr. Sleep who is sort of similar to Danny Torrance. And what I picked was this bright 12 or 13-year-old girl named Aber Stone, who has the same sort of talent and the same sort of mixed feelings about what it is she has. And I was able to introduce Dan, and it was really satisfying to me to make Dan the father figure that Halloran was to him. So this family in the book, and there are family secrets in the book too. I don't want to give too much away if you haven't read it, but there are family secrets. But my point is, family is more than family. Sometimes somebody steps into our lives that serves the purpose that our parents are somehow family with.
Well, actually, in this case, Dan actually is family. Ja, ein großes Thema dieses Buches ist auch Familienbande, und das ist nicht begrenzt jetzt auf Blutsverwandtschaft eben, sondern auch, wenn Erwachsene Verantwortung übernehmen, wie es der Koch vom Overlook Hotel mit Danny als kleinem Kind getan hat, und in dem Buch übernimmt Dan dann als Erwachsener Verantwortung eben für diese 12-jährige Aber Stone. And what I truly enjoyed is that even she, although she is like the innocent young girl, has its dark parts, her dark parts. She has anger in herself and has difficulties controlling it.
Anger is another addiction, and the book starts with an epigram from the Alcoholics Anonymous handbook that says, anger is a luxury that's it's the dubious luxury of normal men and women, but since none of us here are normal tonight, we would agree. I mean, you're here listening to me, you can't be like totally straight. But I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, normal is boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I don't want to bore you with my questions anymore, although I truly enjoy the privilege of being here on stage and being able to ask you questions.
Are these the ones that come from like the internet?
Yeah. See, me you could have manipulated, but these are just black and white on paper.
These are the ones that come from somewhere out in the next galaxy, believe me.
I know. Well, asking questions.
Maybe tonight it'll be all right.
Well, let's see. Genau, genug von meinen Fragen. It's my job to ask questions as journalists.
Did you pick these?
No, Heine did actually. The publishing house did.
So I
have nothing to do with it. My conscience is clear. No, they're actually quite fun, I think. Fragen, die wir über Facebook und auf Twitter im Vorfeld bekommen haben, und ich stelle einfach mal zwei, drei. Do you sometimes have nightmares where you encounter characters from your own books, like the clown from Ass?
It's so much better than it. But listen, here's the thing. I had the idea for that book. Strange. People say, where do you get your ideas? And I make jokes about the answer. I don't know where the ideas come from. They strike like lightning sometimes. Once in a while, I can follow a chain of association. Most of the time, not, and I don't care. If the ideas come, I'm happy with that. But I had an idea when I was in Colorado that I wanted to write a really long book that had all the monsters in it. I figured if people think that I'm a horror writer, I've never considered myself to be that myself. I'm just a writer. But, thank you. But I thought to myself, okay, if they want that, let me see how much I can do, and I'll get all the monsters together that I possibly can. I'll get the vampire, and I'll get the werewolf, and I'll even get the mummy, although the mummy has never really scared me because it's like, oh, the mummy's after us, let's all walk. He's not a terribly scary monster, but he had to be there because he's one of the classics. And then I thought to myself, there ought to be one sort of binding, horrible, nasty, gross creature, the kind of thing that just, oh, you just don't want to see that. It makes you scream just to see it. And I thought to myself, what scares children more than anything else in the world? And the answer was clown. How do you say clown in German?
Just like that.
Sweet clown.
Yeah, like clown.
So I created Pennywise the Clown in it, and then what happened was ABC came along and said they wanted to make a miniseries out of it, and they wanted to cast Tim Curry as Pennywise.
Although he's scary even though without a clown mask on.
I thought it was a really strange idea, but it really worked, and it scared a whole generation of young people and made them scared of clowns, but clowns are scary, I think, for children to start with. I think.
But you don't dream of Pennywise.
I'm sorry?
You don't dream of Pennywise.
No, I don't exactly dream of Pennywise, but there are scenes in that book that did kind of haunt me and give me nightmares at the time. But the thing is, I don't, as a general rule, have nightmares. I think of the most awful things I can think of and pass them on to you. So it's great. I get rid of them, I get paid, you get nightmares, it all works.
It's a great deal, right? You enjoy it. So what do you think makes people actually scared? Now that's a question for me again. I mean, what's it? Do you touch their own fears?
Well, what scares people is variable. It's uniquely variable. But I think that for me, what's worked over across all the years is to forget about the idea of scaring people. What I want to do is to tell a story where there are characters that people like. And Dr. Sleep is the only sequel, but I was not able to let the Losers Club from it go completely. There was Eddie Kazrak, and there was Ben Hanscom, and Beverly, and Richie, and all those guys. And I brought Beverly and Richie back in 11/22/63 because I wanted to see them again, you know? So I just did. They're like old friends. And the idea is that if you can create characters that readers care about, the way that they care about people in their neighborhood or their family, and then if you put them in jeopardy, the terror or the suspense or the horror comes with that. One of the reasons that some of the horror movies aren't very scary is because the characters are two-dimensional and we don't care about them much.
That's a good point. Ein Grund, warum sein Schreiben funktioniert, warum es Angst macht, ist, weil er sich sehr darum bemüht, die Charaktere so zu gestalten, dass die Leser sie mögen. Und wenn man diese Gestalten, die man dann als Leser mag, in gefährliche Situationen geraten, dann hat man für sie quasi Angst, weil wir als Menschen ja eben auch Empathie-Empfinden haben. Und auf die Eingangsfrage, er selber hat jetzt nicht unbedingt Angst oder träumt von seinen Charakteren, aber so ein paar Mal hat ihn das schon, damals als er It geschrieben hat, hat ihn das verfolgt, der Clown und die Geschichte. All right, you actually basically answered two of the following questions already, so I'll skip those and come to one that's also when someone answered
because we are.
You mentioned you really don't write sequels, but here's one question that really would like to see Carrie in action again. Is that going to happen?
She would like to see Carrie what? Again?
Yeah.
Dude, Carrie died.
I know, but you yourself said that the nice thing about fiction writing is that you can always make them come back. I mean, even Jack Torrance made an appearance.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, no.
All right, then why don't we open it up to the floor and have three questions from the audience. And we have three Zufallsgeneration, I call them, like random picks from here. The spot will guide them. Let's start over here sometimes. If you have a question, raise a hand, and the microphone will come to you. Okay, I think the spot found someone over there. Yep, if you could please stand up and just introduce yourself quickly, and hang on a second, there should be a microphone coming. There it is. Great.
Yeah, hello, I'm Annika. And
hello, Annika.
Hi. I wanted to say I'm sort of a member of the Losers Club. High school was not that nice for me, so...
Anybody who thought high school was the best time of their life was totally fucked up.
I wanted to say your books helped me a lot, and I became a published writer too because of you. And I don't, and I don't think I'm the only one. So, did you ever think about when you wrote your first books that you would influence so many people on this level?
I never had any idea. I was just having fun, and when the books got published, to me it was like a dream come true because I could do what I loved for money.
And almost didn't happen.
That was a great thing.
Trash.
Yeah, Carrie did go in the trash, but at that time I was writing a lot of short stories. We were a young family with 2 kids and no money, and the short stories were providing the difference between poverty level and actually being able to take the baby to the doctor once in a while, those $200 checks. And Carrie turned into a story that was going to be too long to sell to a magazine, so I threw it in the trash. And my wife picked it up and brushed off all the cigarette butts and uncrumpled it and started to read it. And she has a little cat-like smile that she gets on her face. Probably the smile you guys get on your face when I try to speak German. Because I was trying to write about women, and I said, it's not very good, is it? And she said, it's very good, and I will help you, and she did. That's why I want to.
Thanks very much for that. Ja, also die Frage war, ob ihm bewusst war, dass er mit seinen Werken auch andere Autoren, junge Autoren, Nachwuchsautoren beeinflusst hat über die Jahre, und er sagte, nee, das war nie die Absicht, er hat es einfach getan, weil er Freude am Schreiben hatte, und seine Frau das Manuskript für Carrie nicht aus dem Müll gefischt hätte, dann säßen wir vielleicht heute Abend nicht hier. So, thanks to Tabby. Weitere Fragen hier, der Zufallskegel-Lichtspot kreist. Ich habe ehrlich gesagt keinen Einfluss darauf, da sucht jetzt jemand. Ja,
It's like a disco without music.
I know. Ich glaube, ist das eine... Hast du dich festgelegt da oder kreist du noch? Nee, hier vorne. Okay, we have a question over there.
The suspense is killing me.
Hello, I'm Falco. One question, there are, in many of your books, there are many small references to the Dark Tower series. For example, in Hearts in Atlantis, where a gunslinger is mentioned in just one tiny little sentence. Do you plan that from the beginning to link that book to the Dark Tower series? Does it happen on the fly, or do you think, well, let's give them some sugar to the fans and just make that one small sentence in there?
No, they're not just cookies that are scattered around for the fans. The gunslinger is mentioned in Hearts in Atlantis, and there's a story in there, the very first one. It's one of my favorite stories. It's about the low men in the yellow coats, and well, no, that's okay. But I love it, and the low men are creatures from Midworld, which is the world inhabited by Roman. And all I know is that from the very beginning of that story, I wanted to link our world, our real world, to the fantasy world of Midworld as much as I could. And the more time that went by, the more it seemed to me like I also wanted to link it to my own work and try to create a tapestry that encompassed everything that I could think of. It was a really ambitious idea, but at that time I was in my 20s, and the world was my oyster, and I felt confident to reach for anything. So there are references to the Dark Tower all through the other work. The Crimson King appears, for instance, in Insomnia, a book that put many critics to sleep, but what can I do?
Ja, also die Frage war auch, dass viele Verknüpfungen, die Referenzen, die Anspielungen, die es immer wieder in den King-Büchern gibt, ob das mit Absicht war oder ob das quasi so ein bisschen einfach nur als Gag gedacht ist, und er sagt, nein, das ist wirklich der Versuch, da ein gewisses Gewebe zu finden, ein literarisches, und als er damit angefangen hat, hat er vielleicht ein bisschen zu großspurig gedacht, aber warum nicht? Man muss ja auch groß anfangen, insofern. Noch eine Frage von da hinten, aus dem Bereich vielleicht. Lassen wir den Lichtkegel nochmal kreisen. Oh, da. Oh, das ist nicht mein Fuß. There's one in the corner. Vielen Dank übrigens an den Kollegen am Lichtkegel.
Hi, my name is Dominic, and I have a question. What is your favorite movie from Stephen King movies? That's very critical.
Wait, but your favorite film adaptation of a King novel or a film in general? I think you meant the first.
From your books.
Okay,
From the books,
which King novel that was adapted as your favorite?
Well, actually, I've been treated pretty well. You know, people always come up to me and ask that question about the movies, and it's always sort of like, oh, you must think the movies really suck. But I don't, in fact. I love movies, and I'm always curious to see what people do with my work. And I've been very fortunate. This Frank Darabont made The Green Mile. He made The Shawshank Redemption. Rob Reiner with Misery and Stand By Me. Those are good pictures. Dee Wallace in Cujo. There are a number of the pictures that I like. I could do without the sequels to Children of the Corn.
Oh, yeah.
There have been like 7 or 8 Children of the Corn movies, and I got to the point where I would like to see one of those knockout tournaments where like the Children of the Corn would go up against Chucky. Children of the Corn would kick Chucky's ass. But, you know, they went up against like maybe Freddy Krueger, not so much. But on the other hand, Cujo would tear Freddy Krueger a new one, you know? But let me just tell one quick story, because this speaks to the power of the movies more than anything else I can think of. We live in Florida in the wintertime. My wife and I, we have a place on the Gulf Coast. We didn't really want to go to Florida, but we got to be over 60, and it's the law in the United States. You have to move to Florida. But we go to Florida, and my wife does the shopping every week. But if something comes up in the middle of the week, she sends me to the supermarket for the non-stress items like a whisk or something like that. So I was in the market, and I had my little shopping basket, and I came into the soft drink aisle, and a woman was coming the other way, and she was probably, I'm going to say 108, something like that. She was all bent over with the hump on her back, and she's pushing her cart. She looked up and she said, "I know who you are. You're Stephen King. You write those scary things. You write those horror things. And there are movies, scary, horrible movies, and I bet you make a lot of money, but I just want to tell you, not me. I don't go to see those scary movies. I don't like scary movies. I like uplifting things like that Shawshank Redemption." Great. So I said, "Ma'am, I wrote that." And she said, "No, you didn't." How were the movies?
Ich glaube, das haben die meisten verstanden, aber die Frage, welche seine Lieblingsfilme sind von seinen Büchern, ich glaube, man ist sehr glücklich zu sein mit den Adaptionen, die es gab in den vergangenen Jahren. Große Regisseure haben sich dran gewagt, obwohl ich glaube zu wissen, dass er Shining nicht so super fand. Also, we're not that fond of The Shining, but most of the others probably. The original at least.
I love all the Stanley Kubrick's movies except that one, and that one is like...
Yeah, all right.
I didn't say it!
No, you didn't need to. Aber eine schöne Geschichte ist, dass er in Florida, wie so oft überwinterte und von seiner Frau zum Einkaufen geschickt wurde, hatte meine ältere Dame gesagt, ach, diese ganzen Horrorfilme, das ist doch nichts, da kannst du mich nicht mit ködern. Ich mag eher Filme, die ein bisschen einen erheben und glücklicher machen, wie diesen Shawshank Redemption. Und sagte Stephen King, ja, aber den habe ich da geschrieben. Und sie, na. Stephen King, we're coming to the end of this wonderful fun, actually, more fun than scary. Thank you very much for that evening.
Oh, you can't scare people when they're all together. I got to get you one by one, and that happens.
Well, you sent them a little nugget. I'm sure they'll check that shower curtain tonight when they come home, so thank you for that. Let me conclude with one last question. Is there one question at an event like this you've always wanted to be asked and have never been asked? Use a chance to realize that. Okay, so I'm glad we figured that. You once wrote, writing is about enriching your own life and the life of your readers. I'm pretty sure that not only writing, but reading and talking to your readers has enriched their life tonight very much. Thank you very much for that. Stephen King, ladies and gentlemen. Christmas gifts. Some of you people here tonight have a wristband with a gray seal. Those of those who have that can consider themselves lucky, because of course Stephen King couldn't sign 3,500 books tonight, but he has signed a couple. And those of you who have a gray seal on their wristband may purchase an originally autographed and signed book outside in the lobby from Stephen King. And even those who don't have a gray seal, if you have a white seal, he produced a memorial card, I would call it, for tonight's reading here, especially for tonight. The publishing house Heine printed it, and if you have a white seal, you may buy a copy and get that just for tonight as well. So, that's outside of the lobby. Thank you very much for coming. Have a safe trip tonight. Keep reading.